A megalopolis is a group of separate metropolitan areas, all connected to form one much larger populated area. I consider there to be 7 major megalopolises in the United States: the Northeast Megalopolis, Southeast Megalopolis, SoCal, Texas Triangle, Florida Peninsula, Front Range, and Cascadia. The Northeast Megalopolis is the biggest out of all of these, holding some of the biggest and most important cities in all of the US. But that's not what we'll be talking about today, because there's a different megalopolis with absolutely explosive growth, which is becoming one of the most important regions in the entire country. This is the Texas Triangle. Really quick before I get into that though, I wanted to ask if you'd consider subscribing to the channel. I make educational geography content like this every week, and seeing a lot of growth on the channel gives me so much motivation to continue doing this. So please just simply hit the subscribe button, because it helps me out more than you know. Thank you. So what is the Texas Triangle? Well, it's defined as a megaregion located in the eastern part of Texas. It has a total population of 17.7 million, spread through 8 metropolitan areas, and is continuing to grow at a rate not seen anywhere else in the United States. It's completely insane. So now that you know the basics, I wanted to go through the different metros that make up the megalopolis. But before I can do that, I wanted to state how recent the Texas Triangle became relevant. In 1950, not a single metro had a population over 1 million residents. Now there's over 11 million in just the 2 biggest cities. Over the rest of the video, you'll really start to realize how fast cities went from mid-sized to one of the biggest in the country. So let's start with San Antonio. It has a metro population of just over 2.4 million, and it's grown by 1.9 million since 1950. San Antonio is one of the oldest cities in Texas, and is home to the Alamo as well as the iconic Riverwalk. It's the 24th largest metro in the United States, and the 3rd largest in the Texas Triangle. Next up is Austin, Texas, a city iconic for its recent growth and sudden notability. It has a population of 2.2 million, and has even crazier growth than San Antonio, gaining 2 million in the last 70 years. It's recently gained a lot of celebrity notability, becoming a hot new spot to move to because of the lack of income tax. It's the 28th largest metro in the US, and just the 4th largest in the Texas Triangle alone, which shows just how large these cities really are. Next up, we have the Killeen-Temple Metro, an underappreciated area of Texas, which is a lot larger than people think. It has a population of 480,000, making it bigger than such cities as Asheville, North Carolina, and Mobile, Alabama. Killeen is home to Fort Hood, an American Army post, as well as some of the most mind-numbing suburbs in the entire country. I mean, tell me these aren't just absolutely terrible. Anyways, next up we have Waco, which is actually smaller than Killeen-Temple by a statistical standpoint, hovering at around 280,000. But unlike every other city I'll talk about, Waco was actually well developed in 1950 and didn't completely explode in population. It actually had around the same population as Austin back then, and didn't come anywhere near the same level of growth. Next up is none other than the Dallas-Fort Worth megaplex. At a population of 6.5 million, it clocks in as the 5th most populated metro in the entire US. And it's not even the biggest in the Texas Triangle. Dallas-Fort Worth is one of the most sprawling cities in the country, with suburbs going on forever and ever. In fact, the drive from one corner of the metro in McKinney all the way to the other in Weatherford is 86.2 miles, and would take 1.5 hours. That shows incredibly simply how bad the sprawl has gotten. There's just so much going on all over that you can't really talk about all of it in a short portion I'm giving them. But that's what happens when you're talking about the 5th largest city in the entire US. Now, after Dallas, it gets a little interesting, because with the name of the megalopolis, it gives us something. It's the Texas Triangle. This means, by definition, the region encompasses the entire interior, and every city located in here is considered to be part of the Texas Triangle. So that leads us to our next city, College Station. It's located more in the middle of all these cities, being a little closer to Houston. It has a population of 280,000 and an increase of 210,000 since 1950, meaning it only had 70K before that. Now, obviously, the city is built around Texas A&M University, which results in some very interesting urban layout. There's no real city center, with the central part of the city being the campus. There's lots of apartments all around the central area, which also makes for a very interesting view, with mid-rising complexes everywhere. College Station is also connected to the city of Bryan, with a population of 83,000 on its own, which is a very large city that a lot of people have never really heard of, that really deserves some attention. So now we come to the largest city in the metro, Houston. It's the fourth biggest metro in the entire country at a population of 5.9 million. The best way to describe the city for me is a more swampy Dallas. The two cities have always been a lot alike in many ways, with only a few main differences. The biggest one is that Houston is centered around just one large city. This makes the overall shape of the metro more circular, while Dallas-Fort Worth feels like two small circles mixed together. Houston is home to the Katy Freeway, considered to be the widest freeway in not just the country, but the whole world, going all the way up to 26 lanes in some areas. It also has some of the worst traffic of any highway in the U.S. Maybe if they added one more lane, it wouldn't be so bad. Finally, there's Beaumont, Port Arthur. This isn't technically in the actual triangle, and some would argue it's not part of the megalopolis, but I personally would consider it to be part of it, making it deserve a small portion of the video. At a population of 430,000, Beaumont is actually a very large city. It always felt like a mini Houston, with the main city farther out from the coast, but a suburb city on the water. That city being Port Arthur in Beaumont's case, a city home to the largest oil refinery in the country. So the Texas Triangle is one of the core of American megalopolises, boasting a total population of over 17 million. This is notably 8 million more than the Southeast megalopolis, which has 11.8 million. But the population gains are on par, showing just how crazy the triangle really is. I feel like the one thing about this state and this megalopolis that really baffles me is the sheer number of population in small towns you would never really consider. Take Corsicana, for example, a small town you've probably never heard of south of Dallas. It has a population of 23,000. Or Waxahachie, 30K. Claiborne, 30K. New Braunfels, Texas, has a population of 85,000. That is a city that everyday Americans have never heard of, with a population over 80K. That's insane. While talking about the Texas Triangle, one thing you can't avoid is the political shift over the past couple decades. Most people think of Texas as a conservative stronghold, never to be flipped. But every election, the triangle shifts more and more to the left. Austin, Texas led this charge, actually becoming a center for Democrats, something you wouldn't usually expect. The other three major metros in San Antonio, Dallas, and Houston are all rapidly shifting left, especially in their suburbs, because this is the main thing driving the shift, the suburbs. See, these areas have been rapidly moving left for a while now. Republicans have fought back by controlling rural areas to an even larger extent, something also happening in the triangle. But there's no denying the obvious switch from dark red to light red, and light red to blue. The Texas Triangle is growing at an explosive rate, and the future could be very bright for the economy there. Maybe one day it'll become the center of America, being where all of the most prestigious jobs and people are located. But we'll just have to wait and see. Thanks for watching. Wait, before we end this video, I wanted to shout out my members, Bryson, Aaron Washington, Rosebud4, Van Anonymous, Dominic Psyche, and Jeremy Crone. I appreciate it very, very much. If you want to become a member, it's right next to the subscribe button. There's just a little join button, so please consider doing that. Thank you.